Right, well, it's Advent. Nikki asked me today, what actually is Advent? What's she supposed to do with the children? So I said, well, where do I begin? I said the main thing really is that we're preparing for the Lord's coming. Now the whole kind of theme of Advent is that he is coming. And therefore it's all about, if you like, the build-up that once he came to Bethlehem. And so if I was going to explain it, you know, kind of in the context of everything, what I want to say is, well, you begin with the fall. You begin with Adam, who went wrong, and then there's the thing. What do we do with Adam who's gone wrong? How do we make him right again? And then you go on to Abraham, and the promise to Abraham. Abraham said, the Lord, come to a land that I will show you. I'll make your name great, I'll make you a great nation. And he said, all the earth will be blessed by you. You'll be a blessing to the whole earth. And so Jesus is the blessing to the whole earth that came because Abraham believed God and went to the land. And then all the rest of the scriptures explains how that happened. And it's kind of symbolised by two people. You've got John the Baptist, who's the prophet, who we hear about in the Song of Zechariah. He is the last prophet of the Old Testament. He's the last speaker of the word before the Messiah comes. He is the herald, the announcer. And it's, if you like, somehow he symbolises the fact that God spoke his prophetic words throughout all those times to prepare the way for the Messiah to come. To say who the Messiah is and what he does and everything else about him, so that we can actually understand and recognise him and not understand these things. And so how John the Baptist as the last prophet signifies that that's how it happened, through all these prophetic words being fulfilled. And he, if you like, embodies that, and he spoke those last words to prepare the way for the Lord when he actually did arrive. And the other one would be Mary, because she was the physical mother of Jesus. She gave birth to him. His flesh came from her flesh. And if you like, in the beginning of the Gospel of John, it says the Word became flesh. And so with John and with Mary, you've got the two of them, the Word and the flesh. But Mary also stands for all the Israelites, all the people of Abraham. Because the whole nation of Israel, if you like, brought the Messiah. It wasn't just Mary, some arbitrary girl on her own. She was chosen because she was an Israelite. And because she was engaged to be married to Joseph, who was an inheritor, a distant son of David the king. And so you see how all the stories of Abraham, of David, of the prophets and everything, they're all meshed together. They all form this pattern, which is finally fulfilled in the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. And so if you like, what I'd want to do for Advent would be to somehow gather all these thoughts together in some systematic way. Of course, it's a huge story, and there's loads of stuff you could say, so you can never get it all done. But that's kind of what I'd want to do if I was going to kind of do Advent. Nikki said, well, that's such a neat little explanation. Why don't you just say it to everyone? So there you go. So today's reading, though, is just about one part to which we're looking forward. Because, of course, Jesus didn't just come once. The whole point is he's going to come again. He will come again. And so, Jesus' last words in that gospel reading, so I say to you all, keep awake, keep watching, is his words to us. To keep awake, to keep watching for his coming. Because he says no one knows when it will be. No one knows the day or the hour. Not even the Son, he says. Not even himself. He doesn't know. It's a kind of curious thing that kind of reveals the nature of the Trinity, that Jesus doesn't know. Because it says the Father has entrusted to him all things. The Father has elevated him above all things. The Father puts all things in subjection under his feet. So there's no one, if you like, greater and more glorious. And yet he doesn't know. And it begs the question, does the Spirit know? Is the Spirit aware of the Father's mind, his decision? Because it says, no one knows a man's thoughts except his own spirit. Now we, he says, have the mind of Christ, because we have the Spirit of Christ. And it made me think, well, maybe the Spirit knows the mind of the Father on this. But the Father has decided to withhold this thing from the Son for some reason. But we know the Father is good. We know the will of the Father is for goodness, is his loving kindness. You know if the love of the Father has for the Son, his great love. We know the love of the Spirit for the Son, and the Spirit and the Son for the Spirit and the Father. We know that Jesus only came to do the will of the Father, that he only does what he sees the Father doing. That's what it says in the Gospel of John. And so somehow this is a reflection of all these things, of the relationship between the Father and the Son and the Spirit. That they're not interchangeable, they're distinct, and they complement each other in their different ways. And so we're waiting for him to come again at that time when no one knows. So all those people that have confidently said he's going to come on this day, you know they're going to be wrong. And as soon as anyone starts telling us when it's going to happen, you know they're wrong, because no one knows. And I say that every year. No one knows. Just in case you're wondering, just in case some newbie on the internet starts ranting and you think, gosh, I wonder if he's onto something. Well, if you start saying that, you know he's out of line. Anyway, but we're supposed to be waiting, watching, ready for him when he comes again. If you remember, we've just had the parables of the talents, and we've had the parable of the bridesmaids over the last couple of weeks. And here's the last one, if you like, the one that rounds it all off. Jesus says, it's me. I'm the bridegroom. I'm the master of the house. I'm coming again. So make sure you're ready for me when I come. And he's not saying that, if you like, to ambush us or to try and catch us off guard. He's saying that for the opposite reason. Don't let me catch you napping. Because I will be coming, he said. I think in one way we can look at that one day we're going to die. And no one knows the exact hour of our death. You know, it's very hard to predict. You know, if someone's grievously ill and you say to the doctor, how long have they got? They're guessing. Because basically they don't know. And at times they're completely astounded. At times their knowledge is confounded. It makes no sense. Either someone just carries on living beyond all expectation, or they suddenly go horribly wrong with some complications, completely unforeseen, and that's it. Game over. So no one knows. We never know. So we're always in that uncertainty that we just don't know. And we have to, if you like, make the best of it while we have. Make hay while the sun shines. And so Jesus is comparing himself to a householder who's gone away and left his servants in charge. It reminds me of when we lived in Zim, because we actually did have servants who we left in charge of the house when we went away. And when we came back at an unforeseen hour, we'd turn up. Right, how's the house? Has it been trashed in our absence? Has it been broken into? How's the line running? Has anyone done anything awful? Has anything disastrous happened? Are you still on your jobs? Are you still doing your shifts? And we're coming around and check on everything. And I'm happy to say most of our employees are pretty good actually, so we didn't come back and have to freak out or sack them or anything like that. Mostly we gave them a pat on the back and a bonus. So, I know the feeling. You go abroad and you just hope the people at home are watching over the stuff properly. And that's how Jesus is describing us. He's left us in charge of his affairs while he's away. And he's hoping that we're doing it properly. And Paul describes this in this reading from the Corinthians. He says that just as the testimony of Christ has been strengthened among you. And I was kind of confused about that. I thought, I wonder what that exactly means. What did he precisely mean about that? He's talking to this congregation and he's saying, as you have known these things, as you have turned to the Lord and as you believed in him, you have been changed by that knowledge. That thing which happens when you turn to him changes you from within. And as that happens, as you are beginning to be changed, you recognise it in other people. And as you get together as a group, that itself shows that you have something in common that you didn't have before. And it's something greater than who you are in nature. Something apart from your natural being. So it's not based on your birth, or your upbringing or your culture. So it's something completely separate from all those things. And as I've travelled around the world and met Christians from different countries, it's become apparent at times that this is a very real thing. Particularly somewhere exotic like Africa, where you meet people and you have nothing else in common with them. Nothing at all. You can't even speak the same language. Have completely different environmental backgrounds. And yet, you have this thing in common. And you can recognise it in each other. And if you like, the more different you are as people, the more striking that recognition becomes. And if you're with someone that's fairly like-minded anyway, then you kind of expect to get along and see something in common with someone. But if you meet someone that's utterly alien to you, and then you suddenly find this thing in common, that really tells you something about how profound this is. And that, I think, is what he means by the testimony of Christ being strengthened among the congregation, that the whole congregation is being changed in this way, that there is this thing in common which they all share, which they all have. And the congregation at Corinth was one that was very disunited, which is why he's writing the letter. There's a lot of internal tensions in that congregation, a lot of rivalries. There's a lot of pride and vanity, people showing off, people forming cliques, people rubbing each other up and down the wrong way. But he said, in spite of all that, there is a greater thing at play. Something which actually holds you all together in a very real way. And the letter goes on to explain all these things. But he reiterates to them, partly because of their preoccupations, that all this is waiting for the Lord's revealing, as he puts it. So that you're not lacking any spiritual gift as you wait for the revealing of our Lord Jesus Christ. That revealing is when he comes again, when everyone will see him. One translation I read puts it the public revealing of him, because it emphasises that everyone will see him. It says in the book of Daniel that one like a son of man appears with clouds and glory. And Jesus says here, when I come again, with the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. He's deliberately echoing those words from the prophet Daniel, taking them to himself and saying, I will come. And when he was originally born, if you remember, he was the baby in a manger. It's a very, very little quiet little thing. And people had to be stirred up to actually pay any attention to it. The shepherds wouldn't have bothered going there unless someone had told them to. You know, the Magi wouldn't have bothered going unless there was some profound reason for them to go. No one would have bothered noticing. There's nothing, if you like, spectacular about that birth in itself. It was a normal birth in a country village, and so what? Happens all the time. But when he comes again, it will not be like that. Everyone will see his glory. Everyone. And those who are ready for him, those who are awake, those who are being watchful, you'll see him and it'll just be thrilling, it'll be great. Yay, here he is. But for those that are not ready, it'll be horrible. For those that don't want him to come, it'll be appalling. For those that are angry at his coming, it'll be a disaster. And that's the cautionary note to us. That Jesus wants us to welcome him. Remember the bridesmaids? He wants us to be like the bridesmaids, jumping up with the lights ready. Come on then, let's go in, let's have a party. That's the invitation offered to us. A happy thing, a lovely thing, a wonderful thing. That's what he wants us to know. That it will be like that. Like bridesmaids going into the party. But then, the psalm in the Old Testament are written from another point of view. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, says Isaiah. He's just seen the northern kingdom flattened by the invading army. And the psalmist seems to echo those same thoughts. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, leading Joseph like a flock. He talks about Joseph and Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh because that's the northern part of the kingdom. And sometimes when they're talking about the north, they'd use those words of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh, almost interchangeably, to symbolise that northern part. And that was the part that was flattened by the Assyrians during the life of Isaiah. Do you remember that reading we have at Christmas? The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. I think it's echoing that idea that the land has been devastated and it's darkened. But there's that promise that in Galilee there will come the Messiah, the light. And the sorrow of the psalmist, you have fed them with the bread of tears, you've given them bowls of tears to drink. He talks about the vine, which is another thing which Isaiah talks about. He took a vine from Egypt and he planted it. He's using the analogy of the people, planted like a garden in their land, growing and flourishing and bearing fruit. Now he says, and now what? The walls are torn down. The garden's being dug up by pigs. People are stealing the fruit. It's horrible. When are you going to put it right? And as you look around, you might think, oh God, when are you going to do it? When are you going to put these things right? When? And that's the feeling in there. That's the sentiment that echoes it. And he will. Because he will come. And he will put everything to right. And in the meantime, he's saying, just hang in there. Just be patient. Just do your little thing. Whatever it is that you do to keep awake, to keep watchful, just keep on doing it. You don't have to bear the burden for the rest. You don't have to, if you like, take responsibility for what everyone else is doing. You don't have to, if you like, be crushed by a sense of responsibility for global warming or Donald Trump or any of the other bad things that go on. We have to just attend to our own things, our own faithfulness. Because as Paul says, he will strengthen you to the end, so that you may be blameless on the day of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is faithful. By him we're called into fellowship of his Son, into that unity, into that body. We're called together. He is faithful. He will keep us going right to the end. And in the end of the psalm, it looks forward to that day. It says, let your right hand be on the man of your right hand. The Son of Man, you have made so strong for yourself. Jesus' strength will be revealed. When he comes again, he'll sweep the board clean of all the pieces. He'll throw down all the kingdoms. He'll make everything right. He'll make Adam right again. Because he's the new Adam, the new man, the new beginning, the new start for everything. And that's what we're waiting for. That's why we wait faithfully and patiently, because he is trustworthy. And that's why it's worth believing in him.